Characters are the core of any story. They are what suck you into a world and make you want to learn more about the setting and plot and give you the perspective to look at the rest of the story through. Everyone has their favorite characters, some people even knowing their favorite characters of all time, that they find entertaining and fun to watch or read, relate to aspects of their personalities and lives, or find interesting through their thoughts and actions. I don't really have one character that I'd call my favorite of all time. Maybe one day I'll sit down and determine that. But in the meantime, I thought it'd be fun to explain some of my favorite characters. And to be even more interesting, I'm going to explain my favorite characters for every letter of the alphabet just because. These are all my personal beloved characters, and whether you agree or disagree, that's great, and we can all have a civil discussion in the comments section. Anyway, I think that's enough of an introduction, so let's get started. Also, please consider subscribing. This video took a long time to make. Letter A. Okay, we're starting with the toughest letter for me to determine. For some reason, I have a lot of characters that begin with the letter A that I really like. You have Annabeth Chase from Percy Jackson, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, Animal from The Muppets, Anne Boone Choi from Amphibia, Anna from Fire Emblem, and yes, Atom Smasher. But really, it came down to two characters. Amity Blight from the Owl House and Annette from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Amity is one of, if not the best character from my favorite show. Her arc of climbing out from under her mother's iron fist, finding happiness, true friends, and falling in love with Luz is an amazing character journey. She is an abomination magic prodigy, who is very powerful and is featured in what I believe to be the two best fight scenes in the show, excluding the finale, the Grom Dance and the Eclipse Lake duel. Annette, on the other hand, is such a sweet, hardworking, and lovable character from Fire Emblem Three Houses, one of my favorite games of all time. She's a magic user, which I love in Fire Emblem, and while she can be frail on the battlefield, I always love having her there. Her backstory with her father is sad to see, and she's really hard on herself, which makes me want to protect her at all costs. I love all of her interactions and her supports, and she was actually the character I S-supported on my first playthrough. Honestly, I would like to put these two characters at a tie, but that's kind of a cop-out. So if I had to choose one, it'd be Annette. Okay, let's move on before I change my mind. Letter B. Okay, this one's a lot easier. If you've been on my channel before, you know I enjoy DC, so I think I gotta go with Batman. No specific incarnation really, but special mention to Kevin Conroy, Robert Pattinson, and Christian Bale. You all know the story. Bruce Wayne watches his parents get killed, trains his mind and body, and vows to clean up his home city using his parents' fortune. From a brooding detective to a calculating planner to a guy with a strict set of moral beliefs, he's always a treat to see on screen or page. He constructed such a mythos around the Bat family, his rogues gallery, and his interactions with other heroes that there's really no beating him. Letter C. My pick for letter C is Charlie Brown. I grew up on the Peanuts holiday specials and have also read several of the comics with this guy. He's just such a genuine character that you often feel bad for and want him to succeed. But he's also entertaining to see in the many misadventures he gets into, trying to fly a kite, pick out a Christmas tree, or being tricked over and over again by Lucy to kick her football. But the cool thing about Charlie is that he keeps picking himself up. I guess what I'm trying to say is watch the Peanuts movie and you'll see why this guy is so beloved. I have a soft spot for Fire Emblem's Crom and Claude, but it really wasn't a contest. Letter D. It's Doctor Strange. He's always been a really cool character to me, even before I really knew what he was about. I really like his sorcery, and seeing the powers and weapons in his arsenal and things like the MCU are all unique and cool. I find his arrogance well-deserved, since he's easily one of the smartest characters as a brain surgeon, while also one of the most powerful characters. He had the best episode of What If that can really show how tragic he can be when his arrogance takes over, and I loved him in all of his crossover appearances. And while his solo movies aren't my favorite, they're still pretty good in my opinion. I can't wait to see more of him. Letter E. E is a weird letter for me, as I don't really know a lot of E characters I absolutely love. However, I'll go with Ida Clawthorne from the Owl House. I feel like I never give Ida enough credit as a character since I tend to focus on Luz and her friends, but really Ida goes through a lot. She goes from an outlaw loner with a terminal curse and very few allies to adopting 2 kids, reconciling with her sister, parents, and ex-lover, and manages to overcome her challenges to accept her curse and grow stronger from it, despite losing her ability to perform traditional magic. She actually becomes a really good maternal figure, and episodes like O Titan, Where Art Thou, and Ida's Requiem really show how compelling she can be. Letter F. Ooh, another weird one. Let's say Fix It Felix Jr. from Disney's Wreck-It Ralph. This is one of my favorite Disney movies, and Felix has always been my favorite character from it. He's really positive and friendly and always ready to help others. I always remember how at the beginning of the movie, when Ralph crashes the anniversary celebration, Felix, despite it being awkward for him and everyone else at the party hating Ralph, is still nice and kind to him, even letting him come in for a slice of cake. And how at the end he finally hears Ralph's feelings for being treated like a bad guy and helps Vanellope, becoming good friends with both. His interactions with Calhoun are great, and their relationship is so nice. Really, my only complaint with this guy is how the sequel completely shafts him and Calhoun, with them only being in it at the beginning and end. But depending on your opinion on Ralph Breaks the Internet, that might be a good thing. Still, Felix is a great character that deserved better. Letter G. G for me is Gumball from The Amazing World of Gumball. He can be cynical and selfish, but he has great comedic timing, and the writing of the show makes him always enjoyable to watch, even if as the series goes on, he kinda becomes more of a jerk. Still, his schemes and shenanigans are almost always funny to watch, and while the series is getting another season, I would have preferred the movie as a proper finale. Guess we'll just have to see how that goes, but I'll definitely continue to tune in no matter what happens to the show and the character. Letter H. Another bit of a challenging one. Characters that come to mind are Han Solo, Hercules, Hades, and my second place probably being Hunter from the Owl House. For this one, I think I'll be choosing Hilda. No, not that one. I haven't seen that show yet. No, she's just an avatar. Yep, that's the one. Hilda from Fire Emblem Three Houses. In the base game, she's just really cute, and I like all of her supports with the Golden Deer House. It's also really cool to have a female character using heavy weapons like axes. And in the DLC, she's one of the few characters to join in on the campaign, and we get to meet her brother and get another glimpse into her home life. Really, I just always liked her, and she's just another great part of the Golden Deer House. Letter I. Easy superhero pick. You gotta go with Iron Man. I don't think I have to explain how a guy that builds flying robot suits with lasers and flamethrowers is cool. And Tony Stark is a very fun character. Just pick any MCU moment where he interacts with Peter Parker, Steve Rogers, Rhodey, or any other character, really. There are also plenty of dramatic moments, such as him flying the missile through the portal in the first Avengers, the fight between him, Cap, and Bucky in Civil War, and, of course,
And I am Iron Man.
yeah, I mainly know him from the MCU, but from what little I know of him in the comics, he's an absolute unit, founding the Illuminati and joining the Guardians of the Galaxy. All around a really cool superhero. Letter J. The Joker. One of the best villains in fiction, and every incarnation brings something new and, mostly, great to the character. You have the scene-stealing and gripping performance of Heath Ledger, the classic crime boss with gadgets in Jack Nicholson, the psychological tragedy of Joaquin Phoenix, and of course the classic Batman animated series version voiced by Mark Hamill that, in my opinion, is the perfect balance of a fun clown and a threatening monster. And those are only some of the well-known ones. While he can be a bit overused in media, there's a reason for that. He challenges every aspect of Batman and cements himself as one of the best DC villains. Letter K. Easily Kermit the Frog. Growing up, my dad and I would watch DVDs of The Muppet Show, and I always loved this guy and how he tries to keep the show together, is friendly, meek, and a great performer in his own right. And of course, in the 2011 Muppets movie, which just might be my favorite movie of all time, he shines brightly, even with an air of melancholy around him, like his song where he's dwelling on how the Muppets broke up that gives me tears every time. And the original movie that I also grew up with, he's a big dreamer who puts his life on the line to protect his friends. And yeah, there's really no better choice for my favorite K character. Letter L. So I'd say my letter L is a real contender for my favorite character of all time, that being Luz Noceda from the Owl House. I'll try to keep things brief to avoid spoilers for a show I believe everyone should watch. I immediately bought into Luz's zaniness and love for all things fantasy, but also how that alienated her from her peers and made her very lonely. Then she discovers this amazing world and goes full nerd, which I also heavily relate to. But this fantasy world is far from just wholesome fun, and she deals with some real messed up stuff that changes her over time. She has an unwavering compassion that helps all the people around her, from the bullied plant magic girl to the emperor's prodigy of a nephew to the rich girl that isn't allowed to be happy to the loner outlaw that took her in, improving all of their lives just by being herself. Her growth in magical power is palpable throughout the whole series, and you see from her first spell that she's constantly working and learning new things, to a point where it's believable that she can stand toe to toe with some of the most powerful magic users of the Boiling Isles. And beneath all of that, Luz is not perfect. She can rush into things, struggles with opening up to those who care about her, and has a bit of trauma from before and over the course of the series. But you know she's a truly awesome person and are always rooting for things to work out for her. And you know that she can do it because of all the amazing things she has accomplished, the people she helped, and changed her world for the better, despite not being a chosen one like she always read about. She's immensely fun, relatable, and one of the best Disney protagonists from the past I don't even know how long. Seriously, watch The Owl House if you haven't. Wow, that still was a lot, huh? Letter M. Okay, finally we have a Riordanverse character. Magnus Chase from Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. This series got me back into Riordan's books after years of being away from them, and Magnus himself definitely helped with this. Maggie is decidedly not a fighter, literally dying within the first couple chapters of the series. He works best as a compassionate supporter of others, both as a healer and just a really good friend. He also has such a bumbling way of getting through each of his adventures, which combined with his aforementioned support role ends up giving him a different feel from Percy Jackson or Lester Papadopoulos. I really enjoy all of his relationships, particularly with Sam in the first book, Jack, Blitzen, and Hearthstone, and do I even need to mention Alex? Anyway, yeah, Magnus is cool, and it really sucks he's essentially living in limbo only to die in combat for real when Ragnarok comes around, but let's not worry about that. Letter N. This one feels like a loophole because Omni-Man, alias Nolan Grayson, all but completely rejects his name that qualifies him for this letter. But honestly, I kinda had to find a spot on here for at least one character from Invincible. Nolan as a dad is standoffish and a bit cold, but you get a feeling that he at least cares for his family. However, as Omni-Man, he is an absolutely ruthless force of evil that we see in action over the course of the season that barely has enough humanity to spare his son when Mark stands in his way. He's my favorite take on evil Superman, and I don't think I need to go far to explain why. I mean, think, viewer, think! Also, J.K. Simmons is great voicing the guy, and the amount of fear he imposes on the show is incredible. I'll get to the graphic novel eventually, but like so many other characters in this video, I cannot wait to see more of him. Letter O. Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. As I've stated before, I've enjoyed this character through Justice League Unlimited and the first 3 seasons of Arrow, which admittedly was as far as I was willing to go with the show. He has a bit of a simple origin story, being abandoned on an island and learning to survive, unless you're watching some of the craziness that goes on in Arrow, and coming home as a vigilante. I like how he's a more grounded, down-to-earth, street-level hero, but can still be counted among the greats in the Justice League. Again. This makes him sound a lot like Hawkeye, which, yeah, they are very similar, but I feel like Oliver can be seen as more willing to jump into action than Hawkeye, and also Oliver can be a great personality separate from his hero persona. Oliver in Justice League Unlimited has great character moments as a mentor, lover, and foil to superhumans around him that keeps everyone grounded. Also, bows and arrows and the color green are cool. Sue me. Letter P. Somehow my only other Riordanverse character on this list is Percy Jackson himself from Riordan's original series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. He has a distinct narration feel that makes him, in my opinion, the most entertaining character from Rick's books to read, even in third person like in Heroes of Olympus. Percy provides a great example of the type of hero Peter Parker is designed to be, where we get a large glimpse into his life as a human being, whether with his mom or friends, or just how isolated he can feel from some of the earlier books and even the musical, and still getting to see how often he's pulled into these hero scenarios, often against his will. His strengths are balanced in a way that you know he can have a lot of power that rivals even the gods themselves, while still having his limits and not always being the perfect fighter. And much like Magnus, he's also really entertaining from his funny quips while narrating and his relationships with other characters. For real, pick your favorite Riordanverse character, and almost all of them have a great scene or interaction with Percy. Grover, Nico, Jason, Leo, Frank, Magnus, Hazel, Apollo, and above all, Annabeth. Holy heck, that's gotta be one of my favorite ships of all time. Percy is the type of character you really want to see catch a break, but he always makes the best of his situations and is really entertaining to read. I cannot wait for the TV show. It's too bad there's no other way I can see him on screen until then. Oh well, too bad Percy Jackson movies don't exist. Letter Q. A surprisingly easy question for me to answer. It's the question from Justice League Unlimited. That's the joke. Did you get it? Question's eccentric charm and love of conspiracies makes him a very fun character on his own, and that's without his impacts on the plot and other characters. He has an awesome and wholesome relationship with Huntress. He's one of the few characters we see stand up to Superman, and has some great banter with Green Arrow. He also plays a heavy role in the overarching Cadmus arc when he confronts Luthor and is captured and tortured. Outside of that, his design is cool and mysterious. He can hold his own well in a fight. He has a cool car. Really, what's not to love? The question is perhaps the best surprise I had from my first viewing of Justice League Unlimited, and you can expect much more raving about this character from me from now on, especially if James Gunn puts him in the new DCEU. Seriously, give him his own show. Letter R. I struggled a bit at first with my character for the letter R, but eventually I decided to go with Captain Rex from Star Wars The Clone Wars. He's a stoic leader that cares very deeply for his family, friends, and allies. He's an incredibly loyal man, refusing to abandon the fight for democracy and putting his brothers first in most scenarios. However, he's also not afraid to stand up for injustice in his ranks, like when Ponkrell is slaughtering his men, or really any time when he's on the battlefield with the Republic Army. And then there's heartbreaking moments like him holding fives while he's dying, or him and Ahsoka needing to survive Order 66 against the near unobtainable odds. Episodes like The Deserter and the 4-part Siege of Mandalore are prime examples as to why I really like him. In a show with many unique clones, Rex easily stands out as my favorite. Letter S. So my original answer for the letter S was Sasha Waitbright from Amphibia, but then Across the Spider-Verse fever hit and I rewatched the first film, and I kinda have to go with Spider-Man Miles Morales. His struggles as a teenager and a new superhero and how he overcomes them is immaculate, and probably some of my favorite pieces of this in fiction. On top of that, he's entertaining, has great interactions with other characters like Gwen and Peter B., and everything about him across these two movies are large contributions as to why they're masterpieces. And even outside of Spider-Verse, I really like him. The PlayStation game Spider-Man Miles Morales is really great, and with his cloaking and electricity powers, I kinda had more fun playing as him than Peter in his game. He also pulled off a nearly impossible task by making stealth missions pretty fun, actually. And in every incarnation of this character, from Spider-Verse to his origins in the comics, he's trying to fill in for Peter, whether after his death or just while he's away, like in the Insomniac game. He has a near impossible task to fill in the shoes of a beloved hero who protects an entire city. But despite everything, we see him overcome these difficulties and prove himself as a true hero every time. Honestly, it took me much longer than it should have for me to realize how much I love Miles as Spider-Man. And while I'm still a big fan of Peter and various other Spider characters, I think I have to go with him as my favorite. Letter T. Okay, this one's a lot less complicated than Spider-Man. My favorite T character is Totoro, because he's soft and cute and big and friendly and sweet and sleepy and cute, and I want him to be my friend. And My Neighbor Totoro is the most whimsical and happy movie I've ever seen. Please watch it if you haven't already. Letter U. Okay, for this letter, all the characters I found just had the title of uncle, so I need to go with one of the best uncles in fantasy, Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Iroh always saw the goodness in Zuko and knew he could do great things, even following him into exile. He's also a man who has been deeply hurt by the Fire Nation after serving as a ruthless general for years via the death of his son, but he still puts on a happy face and offers wisdom to everyone, from a blind girl on the side of the road to the guy trying to mug him. He also has a lot of funny moments with his love of tea and board games. He's one of the most caring and forgiving characters in the show, and there's a reason he's a fan favorite. Letter V. Venom. The symbiote itself is a really cool and unique idea for an alien, but I think the image that most people think of when they hear that name is when he's bonded to Eddie Brock. I really enjoy the two Tom Hardy Venom movies where the two characters have a strange bromance despite the movies not being amazing in general. In Spectacular Spider-Man, I think it's a really cool direction they take the characters in, despite me thinking it could have been built up better. And the original comic stories of the character are so tragic in how Venom gave Eddie power at a low point in his life, and after being a villain for a while, he becomes a lethal protector. He's always just been really cool. Letter W. Look, Waluigi is a character that gives a lot of people ironic enjoyment. He does for me too, because he really is a weird and wacky character, but I've always been a fan of him. Luigi's already great, make a stereotypically evil and sneaky version of him, and he's going to be great too. Also, as a kid, he was my main character in Mario Kart, Mario Super Sluggers, Mario Party, really any spin-off I could get him in. Waluigi for Smash, I love this guy. Letter X. Ah yes, the hardest letter to get something for in any alphabetical list. When I looked up characters that begin with X, I mostly got characters from random animes I've never seen. I guess I could go with Professor X, because I just started watching the X-Men animated series. Oh wait, Pokemon! I'm gonna say Xatu, because I've always liked its design and origins, and it's one of my favorites from Gen 2. This answer kind of feels like a cop-out since Xatu is not a singular character, but rather a species of Pokemon. But if you want, you can imagine I just ended this segment with Professor X. Letter Y. Yuri from Fire Emblem Three Houses has a lot of stuff I like in a character from his series. For one, he's a trickster, my favorite class in the game for their use of magic and swords. His personality is fun and sneaky, and I love his interactions with the other characters in the Ashen Wolves house because of it. He also has a lot of intrigue as a character, with his checkered backstory, hidden real name, and his fake betrayal over the course of the story in the Ashen Wolves DLC. Next time I play through Three Houses, I'm recruiting him no matter which house I choose. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the letter Z, which was a choice that was pretty anticlimactic to make. Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you are at all familiar with this franchise, you know why I chose this guy. He has the best character arc of the show that takes as long as it needs to go from a good antagonist to someone questioning the institution he was raised in, to a noble and powerful hero that truly regained his honor. A cool design, awesome powers, a powerful backstory, and an all-around great character. If I go into it too much more, it may spoil some things, which honestly, if you're like me and it took you way too long to watch this series, then you should try and stay clear of his story details. The actual events will end up hitting all the harder. And those are all of my favorite characters for every letter of the alphabet. Wow, this was a long video. If you made it this far, congratulations. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you feel like it. Also, let me know some of your favorite characters. You don't have to do what I did and make a whole list. Thanks for watching. Bye.